Hello, and welcome back to another development video. When I first talked about the 4 worlds almost 1 year ago, I discussed a vision of what I wanted each world to be like. The worlds are still very much debug worlds. However, I've added the last core features into each debug world now, bringing me one step closer to being able to create the actual finished 4 worlds. In the mountains world, I've added 2 new features. The first being a cave maze system. In this debug climb area, I can walk up until I reach the sky, where there's mountains ascending up and clouds moving past. It still looks kind of funky. I gotta figure out how to make the depth look a little bit better, but when I interact with these entrances at the base of the mountain, the game teleports me to a different entrance point in the mountain. This reminds me of things kind of like the Lost Woods in Zelda, where you have to learn a certain order to properly navigate. I will have a few hidden surprises on different ledges in the mountains, encouraging a memorization or making note of where each entrance leads you to. Certain NPCs will offer tips or give you a guide that tells you specific patterns to walk through to reach specific areas. My goal with the mountains world is to have, as I've said, a restricted north in the mountains and a more open area in the south. In the furthest south, we will encounter Cyclopses, the other new feature I've added to the mountains. The Cyclopses vary comically in size, and their speed, strength, and EP drops scale with that size. And what's unique about the Cyclopses is that you're able to pacify them, turning them into stone, which is required for certain puzzles in the game. To turn a Cyclops into stone and pacify it, you must bring a domesticated cat over. And when a Cyclops runs into the player, when there's a domesticated cat nearby, the Cyclops turns to stone rather than attacking you. This silly feature is a blast to mess around with. You can try and make a letter or make a shape with it. With the Cyclopses now made, there is a unique resettable and unique mechanic in each world, besides the hub world. The Isles can reset boats that have been usurped. Boats are used to allow the player to reach other islands in a kind of a large labyrinth-style world. The city can reset repaired cars. Cars are used to travel the roads to quickly navigate a congested world where buildings are all connected up with each other and only the roads have these open areas. The mountains now have Cyclopses that can be reset and have an elaborate maze system up north. This leaves the castle world, which has it's got sheep. Jokes aside, the castle is simplistic intentionally. There is a mechanic with the sheep where you can get shears that you can shear the sheep with, and then when you get enough wool, you can get a wool sweater that gives you a defense buff, and then you can reset the sheep to shear them again. But besides that, it's a really simple, straightforward world. The castle is a world removed from both the complexness of science and the intricacies of magic. It's just a simple open space. But now that we have unique resetables, if I go and talk to the immaterial being and click Reset Worlds, we now have boats, cars, sheep, and Cyclopses. Having these 4 features done means that each world has, at a very bare bones, everything it needs as building blocks to be able to build the polished world. I do have to add a few more quests and fill it with other NPCs, but once that's done, it's going to just be plugging that all in and actually making a proper map. The last thing I want to talk about is the third minigame and the last of the spare parts. If I open up the menu and go to Inventory, I have all 5 spare parts added now. We have, like before, the spark plug, the wheel, the tail light, and I've added now the battery and metal sheets. You will find all these spare parts in a massive junkyard. I have a tiny debug junkyard version here, but it's going to look the same but just bigger, but you can see there's trash everywhere, and then you have a bunch of spare parts lying around. There's also this mini dozer you can unlock that you can use to ram into like big junk piles, and then it drops a bunch of spare parts. When you first enter into the city world, you'll start somewhat near this junkyard, so that way you don't traverse the whole map on foot before finding the spare parts you need to repair cars. 3 of these spare parts are for, like before, cars. However, all 5 of them are used for the third minigame, where you get to build a little robot turret and fight it. When I talk to Hal up here, I enter a screen where I can choose the turret, the chassis, and the wheels that the robot turret will use. To unlock each of these requires different amount of spare parts, but remain unlocked once you build them. You will pick how you want your bot to be set up, and you can see the stats reflecting it, and then you enter an arena and fight endless other robot turrets until you run out of HP. The diversity with speed, HP, and damage, and turret types leads to a really fun minigame that's always a little bit different. And just like before, when you die, it counts up how many bots you defeated, and then it gives you a score. And a gold trophy is the equivalent of beating the minigame. My goal for December is to finish up the last of the side quests, which is only 9 side quests. Then, I can move to make the main quests. Once all of these are done, I can begin to create the actual 4 worlds and fill them with a bunch of general NPCs, which I've only added 2 so far. I hope to have quite a few different ones that just help populate the world, and they'll be used just to ask for directions and to make it look not like an empty space, but that's getting ahead of myself. This concludes the current development video. Thank you for watching.